You still believe defending yourself proves strength. It only proves exposure. Predators mark those who explain, apologize, and beg to be understood. You were trained to believe that defending yourself is honorable, that clarity earns trust. That truth, when spoken loudly enough, corrects reality. This belief was installed to keep you controllable. Defense is not a weapon, it is a signal flare. The moment you explain yourself, you announce position. Not moral position, hierarchical position. You tell the room that judgment matters more than leverage. You confess that perception has power over you. You hand strangers the authority to weigh your worth. Predators do not ask to be understood. They allow others to misunderstand while they reposition. You were taught that silence implies guilt, that only the innocent must speak. That remaining quiet is cowardice. In real power structures, innocence is irrelevant. Only placement matters. When you defend yourself, you are not correcting the narrative. You are kneeling inside it. Every explanation is an agreement that the accuser holds the frame. You accept their premise. You play inside their story. You let them choose the battlefield. And then you proudly fight for oxygen inside a cage you did not build. Defense is not clarity. Defense is submission to framing. Notice how authority never justifies itself. Governments issue statements, not apologies. Kings made decrees, not arguments. Corporations release press language, not emotional confessions. Power does not defend. Power defines. Only those below must persuade. You think you are protecting your reputation. In reality, you are proving it is fragile. You think you are showing strength. You are demonstrating that external opinion can move you. You are declaring that social pressure is a lever that works on your spine. This is the illusion of innocence, the belief that moral correctness equals strategic safety. It does not. In hostile systems, innocence is a liability. It invites testing. It attracts parasites who feed on your need to appear clean. The more you defend your purity, the more you advertise where to strike. Silence, on the other hand, creates uncertainty. And uncertainty is expensive. People hesitate to attack what they cannot map. They fear what does not react. Defense gives them a map. You were conditioned to believe that if you just explain yourself well enough, people will align. That misunderstanding is the problem. That communication is the cure. No. Hierarchy is the problem, and defense only confirms it. Look at every social interaction as a negotiation of status. When someone challenges you, they are not asking for information. They are probing structure. They are checking if you will stand still or fold inward. When you defend, you fold. You give them emotional access. You let them watch you organize yourself around their accusation. You let them see where your values are, soft. You let them learn what you protect. And whatever you protect can be weaponized. Defense is data leakage. Strategists do not leak. They let others speak into silence. They let assumptions rot in open air. They let opponents overextend while trying to pull a response. Because the one who speaks second controls the temperature. You were taught to rush to clarity. Power rushes to position. There is a difference between being right and being dominant. The naive believe these are the same. The dominant understand, they often conflict. Truth without leverage is decoration. Defense without power is confession. You are not losing arguments because you are wrong. You are losing because you are playing the wrong role. You are acting like a citizen in a battlefield designed for generals. From this moment, you must see every attempt to make you defend as an extraction attempt. They are trying to pull you into justification because justification is ownership. Once you defend, you belong to the conversation. Once you belong, you can be steered. Silence keeps you outside the net. This chapter does not teach you to lie. It teaches you to stop begging for permission to exist. You do not need to be understood. You need to be unavoidable. And the first step toward that is killing the illusion that innocence protects you. It never did. It only made you visible. You think you defend yourself because you value truth. You defend yourself because you were trained to fear exclusion. This reflex was not born inside you. It was installed. From childhood, you were rewarded for explaining, for proving you didn't mean harm, for correcting misunderstandings. You were taught that social survival depends on being seen as good, not powerful, not dangerous, acceptable. And acceptable people must always justify themselves. That conditioning hardened into instinct. Now, the moment tension appears, your nervous system reaches for words. Your body wants to repair the image, to restore harmony, to prove innocence. That urge is not moral, it is domestication. Predators do not feel it. Rulers do not feel it. Only trained animals feel compelled to perform innocence. This is the control reflex. It works like this. An accusation, a doubt, a raised eyebrow appears. Your brain interprets it as a threat to belonging. Your heart accelerates. Your mind begins constructing explanations before you even choose to speak. You are no longer thinking strategically. You are regulating fear. And fear always chooses the shortest emotional exit, defense. That is why your explanations are rarely clean. They are rushed, emotional, layered with unnecessary detail. You are not communicating. You are bleeding. And whoever watches learns exactly where to press next time. Because the control reflex makes you predictable. Predictability is ownership. Those who understand power never accuse directly. They imply. They suggest. They allow your own reflex to do the work for them. They watch you rush into defense, and in doing so, you expose your priorities, insecurities, and internal hierarchy. You think they are judging you. In reality, they are studying you. Every defense is a psychological fingerprint. They learn what you care about, what you fear losing, whose opinion you value, where your pride hides, where your shame lives. Defense is not protection. Defense is surveillance collaboration. You help them map you. The cruel truth: people who defend themselves too quickly are not seen as honest. They are seen as manageable. Why? Because someone who needs to be seen as innocent will compromise to maintain that image. They will soften positions. They will negotiate their boundaries. They will trade authority for approval. And approval is the cheapest currency in any power market. The control reflex also creates an addiction, the fantasy that if you just explain well enough, the world will finally be fair. That fantasy keeps you verbal. And verbal people are never dangerous. Silence, on the other hand, triggers discomfort in others. It reverses the pressure. It forces them to project, to guess, to fill the vacuum with their own insecurity. Silence destabilizes hierarchy because it refuses to confirm or deny the accuser's importance. Silence says, "Your judgment is optional." That is why it feels so hard. Your nervous system was never trained for sovereignty. It was trained for acceptance. The control reflex is loyalty to the herd disguised as honesty. You feel it every time someone misrepresents you and your chest tightens. Every time you think, "I must correct this." Every time you rush to restore your image. That rush is not dignity. It is obedience to a social leash. Power begins when you notice the reflex and refuse to obey it, not with anger, not with speeches, with restraint. Restraint is the first muscle of dominance. The world is full of people who talk themselves into smallness, who explain themselves into corners, who defend themselves into irrelevance. You will not join them. From this point forward, you must see defense not as communication, but as a triggered behavior pattern designed to keep you readable. And what is readable is controllable. What is controllable is replaceable. In the next chapter, you will learn to recognize the 3 types of players in every social arena, and which one you have unknowingly been playing. Because until you change roles, no amount of silence will save you. Every social arena contains 3 species. They are not moral categories. They are functional positions in a hierarchy. You have met all 3. You have been at least one. The defender, the judge, the hunter. Most men live and die as defenders without realizing it. The defender believes life is a courtroom. He assumes fairness exists. He assumes clarity resolves conflict. He assumes that if he presents the truth cleanly, others will adjust. He is always speaking from below. Not because he is weak in body or mind, but because his posture is reactive. He orbits the opinions of others. He organizes his identity around response. The defender does not lead narratives. He responds to them. The judge understands this. The judge does not seek truth. He seeks leverage. He questions, implies, raises doubts, and then watches. He enjoys watching defenders activate. He enjoys seeing them explain, justify, clarify. Why? Because the judge feeds on hierarchy confirmation. When you defend yourself, you confirm that the judge has the right to evaluate you. You elevate his position without him ever earning it. Judges do not always wear authority. They can be co-workers, friends, partners, relatives, strangers online. Anyone who provokes explanation from you has temporarily placed themselves above you. Judges do not attack directly. They plant seeds. Interesting that you said that. Are you sure? That's not how I remember it. Some people might see that differently. These are not statements. They are fishing lines. And defenders always bite. Then there is the 3rd type, the hunter. The hunter does not judge openly. He watches. He observes the dance between defenders and judges. He studies reactions. He measures composure. He tracks who leaks emotional data and who withholds it. The hunter is not interested in being right. He is interested in knowing who is positioned. Hunters look for stillness, for delay, for restraint, for those who do not scramble. because the one who does not defend is the one who cannot be easily moved. Hunters align with those above them. They exploit those below them. Defenders think the judge is their enemy. They are wrong. The judge is just another player. The hunter is the one who decides who is worth respecting. And hunters never respect defenders. They may like them. They may use them. They may protect them. But they do not fear them, because defenders can always be pulled back into explanation. Here is the brutal truth. You cannot climb hierarchy while operating as a defender. You can be liked. You can be trusted. You can be praised. But you will not be deferred to. Deference only goes to those who do not require validation. Now observe something uncomfortable. Judges often used to be defenders. Hunters were never either. Hunters learned early that emotion reveals structure. That silence forces projection. That restraint multiplies authority. They learned that when two men argue, the one who speaks less is already winning. They learned that attention flows upward and explanation flows downward. And so they stopped explaining, not because they became cruel, but because they became strategic. You do not need to become a judge. Judges still depend on reaction. They still require engagement. You must move beyond both. You must become unreadable. The moment you stop defending, judges lose purpose. The moment you stop reacting, hunters begin watching you differently. Because silence is not emptiness. It is selective presence. This chapter is not about becoming cold socially. It is about understanding the roles being played around you. Right now, if you're honest, you will see how often you step into the defender role, how often you rush to clean your image, how often you try to manage how others perceive you. That role feels safe. It is not. It is the lowest visible position in the hierarchy, and no one escapes it accidentally. In the next chapter, you will see how history, politics, and human nature confirm this pattern with brutal consistency, and why those who ruled never defended themselves once they reached real power. Because once you see that, you will never defend the same way again. History is not written by those who defended themselves. It is written by those who made defense irrelevant. Look at every figure who held real power. Not symbolic popularity, not temporary applause. Structural authority. You will not find them explaining themselves to crowds. They issued positions. They allowed opposition to exhaust itself. They let critics argue in echo chambers while they moved borders, laws, and economies. Defense is for those whose position is fragile. Power does not clarify. Power waits. When a ruler spoke, it was not to justify, it was to declare. When silence followed, it was not uncertainty. It was gravity. The silence forced others to interpret, negotiate, and submit inside their own minds. This pattern is not cultural, it is biological. In every dominance hierarchy across species, the one who reacts the least controls the direction. The alpha does not explain behavior to the pack. The pack explains behavior to itself. The moment the alpha begins justifying, leadership collapses. Now look at modern politics, corporations, elites. When they are attacked, they do not rush to correct every narrative. They release controlled language, or nothing at all. They let the public argue among itself, because mass confusion protects position. Defense clarifies targets. Silence dissolves them. The public believes silence equals guilt because they were trained to believe power must answer to them. That training is decorative. It preserves the illusion of participation, while real leverage remains untouched. Those who actually govern know this. Attention is a currency. Reaction is a tax. They do not pay it unless it benefits them. Now bring this closer to human nature. Every time a man is falsely accused socially, he feels an instinct to rush toward correction, to restore his image, to regain moral ground. But in doing so, he gives the accusation legitimacy. He confirms that the narrative is worthy of response. He confirms that he can be summoned. That is why false accusations work. Not because they are believed, but because they are answered. History shows us something brutal. People forget accusations. They remember reactions. A man who remains unmoved is assumed to be positioned. A man who reacts is assumed to be vulnerable. This is not fairness. This is pattern recognition. Human beings instinctively defer to what does not need them. Now observe something darker. Every execution of character in history succeeded not because the accusation was strong, but because the accused defended emotionally. They tried to explain humanity to a system that only understands optics. They fought in the wrong arena. Those who survived reputation warfare did not defend. They displaced attention. They changed frames. They let new narratives grow while the old ones starved. Silence is not passive. Silence is starvation. It starves enemies of momentum. It starves critics of validation. It starves manipulators of response. History rewards those who control narrative gravity, not narrative content. You were taught to correct lies. Power was taught to outlast them. Now apply this to personal life. The man who argues about respect never gets it. The man who demands loyalty never receives it. The man who defends his boundaries constantly never has them. Because boundaries, enforced through speech, are already broken, the silent victor does not defend his position. He occupies it so completely that defense becomes unnecessary. And that is the final inversion. Defense feels active. Silence feels passive. But in power structures, silence is pressure. Speech is relief. Speech lets tension escape. Silence compresses it. That compression forces others to adapt. This is why uncomfortable silence makes people overshare. Apologize. Backtrack. Soften. Offer concessions. Silence makes others negotiate against themselves. History belongs to those who mastered this instinct before they mastered any weapon. The lesson is not to become mute. The lesson is to understand when speech lowers you. And most men speak exactly when they should not. In the next chapter, you will be given the strategic posture to replace defense with control, not as theory, but as behavior. Because silence without structure is weakness, and structure is what turns restraint into dominance. Silence alone is not power. Silence without structure is just absence. Power begins when silence is intentional, timed, and supported by posture. You are not learning to disappear. You are learning to control the exchange. Operational silence means you do not remove yourself from interaction. You remove your need to justify yourself inside it. This is the behavioral shift. You stop answering accusations. You start redirecting frames. You stop correcting misunderstandings. You start selecting which realities deserve existence. You stop defending intentions. You start projecting outcomes. When someone questions you, you do not explain. You acknowledge, pause, and move the conversation forward on your terms. Not aggressively, not emotionally. Clinically. Example, they imply doubt. You respond with calm neutrality. No denial. No explanation. No apology. You allow the implication to hang in their hands. Because the moment you refuse to carry it, it becomes their burden. Operational silence works because it inverts responsibility. The accuser now feels exposed. They must escalate or retreat. Most retreat. Why? Because accusations without reaction look childish. Judgment without authority looks insecure. Pressure without response looks desperate. Your stillness makes their behavior visible. This is the secret. You are not silencing yourself. You are silencing their leverage. You replace defense with 3 strategic tools. 1. Temporal control. You do not respond immediately. Delay alone raises your perceived rank. Speed implies anxiety. Slowness implies choice. Time is the first language of authority. 2. Minimalism. When you speak, you use fewer words than expected. Short responses. Clean sentences. No emotional texture. You do not decorate your position. You place it. 3. Redirection. You move the conversation toward action, structure, or consequence, never toward emotional clarification. You speak about what will happen, not about how you feel. This posture forces others to adjust. People are conditioned to dominate through conversation. When conversation stops working, they feel disarmed. And here is the key transformation. You stop trying to be understood. You start letting others adapt to you. Operational silence is not about hiding. It is about occupying space without negotiation. Now understand this clearly. You will be tested. People will provoke you harder. They will escalate tone. They will accuse more sharply. They will attempt to pull emotion from you. This is not failure. This is proof that the leash is slipping. They are trying to feel where you are anchored. If you hold posture, something changes. They begin to soften. They begin to explain. They begin to justify. And in that moment, the hierarchy reverses. Because now they are defending, and you are no longer inside the frame. You are above it. Operational silence also protects your identity. When you do not defend, you stop rehearsing who you are for others. You stop sculpting yourself for approval. You stop reinforcing the version of you that needs acceptance. You become a closed system. And closed systems are powerful because they cannot be easily edited by outsiders. People respect what they cannot reprogram. This is not arrogance. This is sovereignty. You are not saying, "I am better." You are saying, "I am not available for this structure." That alone separates you from most men. The final rule of operational silence: you only speak when speech increases position, not when it relieves pressure. Not when it seeks comfort, not when it begs clarity. You speak to move pieces. You remain silent to let others reveal theirs. By now, something inside you should feel uncomfortable, because this posture kills a familiar version of you. The version that wanted to be liked. The version that wanted to be seen as good. The version that believed explanation was safety. That version must die. And in the next chapter, it will. The man who defends himself is not just using a behavior. He is protecting an identity built around approval, around recognition, around being seen as fair, reasonable, and clean. That identity must be executed, not corrected, not improved, eliminated. Because as long as it lives, it will sabotage every position you try to hold. The old self believes respect comes from explanation. The new self understands respect comes from distance. The old self fears misunderstanding. The new self understands misunderstanding is a shield. The old self wants alignment. The new self commands adjustment. This is not evolution. This is replacement. You are not adding strength. You are removing dependency. The old self measured himself by reactions, by tone, by whether others agreed, smiled, softened, or approved. His identity was externally indexed. The new self is internally indexed. He does not scan rooms for permission. He does not calibrate speech to preserve comfort. He does not perform innocence. He allows others to experience him without explanation. And that terrifies them, because a man who does not clarify cannot be easily categorized. A man who cannot be categorized cannot be easily controlled. The death of the old self feels like loss. You will feel colder, more distant, less emotionally available. You will also feel lighter, because you are no longer carrying other people's interpretations on your spine. This identity replacement is not cosmetic. It is neurological. Your brain will still attempt to defend. Your chest will still tighten. Your tongue will still prepare words. And you will not obey it. Every time you refuse the reflex, you weaken the old identity. Every time you stay still, you strengthen the new one. At first, people will react. They will say you've changed. They will say you're cold. They will say you're different. They are correct. You are no longer easy. You are no longer readable. You are no longer available for hierarchy below your choosing. Some will retreat. Some will test harder. A few will recognize the shift. Those few are the only ones worth noticing, because men do not respect explanations. They respect composure. The execution of the old self is complete when you stop feeling the urge to rescue your image. When a rumor no longer demands correction. When a misinterpretation no longer requires response. When a judgment no longer triggers urgency. You will know the identity has changed when silence feels natural instead of painful. At that point, you no longer defend. You observe. You choose. You move. This is the final inversion. You once believed defending yourself was protecting your identity. Now you understand that defending yourself was preventing its evolution. You were preserving a version of you designed for submission inside social systems. That version could survive, but it could never rule its own position. The new self is not cruel. He is not loud. He is not theatrical. He is structurally untouchable, not because he cannot be attacked, but because attacks no longer dictate his shape. This is sovereignty. Not control over others. control over reaction, not domination through force, domination through non-availability. The old self begged to be understood. The new self allows others to adjust or disappear. There is no announcement, no declaration, no performance, only posture. And posture decides everything. There is a final boundary most men never cross. Not because they cannot, but because they are too attached to being seen as good. That boundary is the moment you accept that respect is not granted to the righteous, but to the unmoved. From this point forward, every time you defend yourself, you will know exactly what you are doing. You will know you are choosing comfort over position. You will know you are choosing belonging over leverage. You will know you are choosing the old identity over sovereignty. And that awareness will make defense impossible to perform without shame. This chapter is not here to warn you about others. It is here to warn you about yourself. Because the greatest enemy of your power is not society, not manipulation, not hierarchy. It is your nostalgia for being liked. The world is filled with men who understand these truths intellectually and still betray them emotionally. They return to defense. They return to explanation. They return to apology. Not because they are weak, because they are lonely. Power is isolating. Sovereignty is quiet. And most men were trained to equate noise with life. But once you cross this line, you cannot return without knowing you are shrinking. Every social situation becomes a test. Will you protect your image, or will you protect your position? Will you speak to be accepted, or remain silent to be sovereign? There is no middle path. You either teach people how to treat you through restraint, or you beg them through explanation. From this moment, understand, anyone who demands your defense is demanding your submission. Anyone who pressures you to explain is asking for authority over your frame. Anyone who needs your justification is not entitled to it. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be positioned. The elite are not those who dominate rooms. They are those who never have to. They walk in already placed. This is your final selection. Remain a man who speaks for his right to exist. Or become a man whose existence no longer requires permission. There is no applause for this transformation. There is no audience. There is only alignment. And once aligned, you will see it everywhere. Who defends, who hesitates, who explains, and who never needs to. This is not a philosophy. It is a filter. Use it, or remain inside the noise.